New York City is losing its influence in the fashion world. That's why I said it. New York City is losing its influence in the fashion world. I'm gonna say it again. New York City is losing its influence in the fashion world. You know how I know that? Because the fashions that's popular right now is the fashion that New Yorkers was doing back in the 90s. There hasn't been anything groundbreaking since the 1990s as far as like fashion from New York, since the 90s, early 2000s. So all the rest of the fashion world is sporting 90s New York City fashion, saggy pants, drop crops, drop shoulder, Timbs. And what is New York City doing? We're adapting more of a Midwestern style. People are coming out the house like, some of them like, they don't really care how they look. I mean, you know what I mean? I don't care how they look. They just dress for, for work. They dress for, just to be out casual. But nobody's really like putting it on the way people used to put it on. There was a time when, putting it on, that you ain't come out unless you was put it on. It didn't matter whether you was, rich or poor. I mean, if you was poor, actually, the poor folks were way more creative because they didn't have as many resources, and it was still pop. It actually led to many of the trends that we see right now. And I feel like it's part of it is like, it's just the homogenous nature of New York City right now. Everybody's a lot of Midwesters, West Coast folks moving here. So it's everybody's like, jeans, white shirt. Everybody's dressed in a certain way so they don't stand out as much. Less interesting, less individualism, in some ways less attractive, just like, I wonder if even showers are even popular these days sometimes. So it's very different, I remember a time like getting fly was just like, it wasn't you just had it. You just did it. And now it's really just for going out. And even that is still like, it's kind of, man. Like I said, it's like you are putting it on. It's like you bought it off a mannequin. Like there's no individualism attached to it. So that's why I say New York City is losing its place in the fashion world because we're losing our individualism. Folks are more afraid to be an individual to stand out. So they rather just look like everybody else. And what is everybody else? Gentrification. It's how the white folks look at, or how the folks from the Midwest are looking, from the West Coast are looking, and how they dress. Very plain, not demure, very plain, and that's the vibe that people are taking in. The street culture, people dressing maybe where they see their favorite celebrities dress, but even that is like subject to like regional tastes. As far as like New York goes, New York was like the center of fashion. You can still go in Soho and see some like runway type stuff, but even that is like it's more carbon copies of what people see on runways. It's not like individuals, like people coming out like popping where you have fashionistas like, wow, what is tell me about your style. And there is a few people, Harlem, this place, Brooklyn, Bronx, and some people, some neighborhoods where people are still putting it on and people still have like a good fashion identity that's like based in New York style. But by and large, New York is becoming homogenized. The fashion is becoming homogenized. Our taste in food and culture, it's all becoming homogenized and diverse in some ways, but homogenized in other ways as well. And in that sense, we are kind of losing our place in the fashion world as far as our influence, because we are not being individuals anymore. We're just